It's actually called Plastic Red Spitty Cup. If you think about it being a sippy cup at the end of this story, you're gonna vomit in your mouth. Warning! If you are squeamish or drinking a caramel frappuccino, do not listen any further. Like you have a choice. I started getting a scratchy throat on Wednesday, but didn't really think much of it. Probably just another cold. Did a quick overload on vitamin C and figured that was it. The next morning I woke up and my uvula, the throat hangy ball thingy, was 4 times its normal size and laying on the back of my tongue. This kind of creeped me out because I'd never had anything like that happen. After a quick Google, I found out that it was something called uvulitis. Not serious, just more annoying, because it constantly made me gag and I felt like I was going to puke every 5 minutes. I wake up the next morning and for some weird reason I'm 100% back to normal, like nothing had happened. Little did I know I was about to be on a pain train, headed for Torture Town on Agony Avenue. When I woke up the next day, I felt like I had eaten my silverware drawer and chased it down with a big bowl of jagged metal Crustios. My fever was up to 102 and my body felt like I'd sprinted from Baytown to Bogota. I went to the doctor and she told me I had uveitis, but also tonsillitis and strep throat. She gave me a steroid shot and a penicillin shot in my butt. Wrote me a prescription for some mouthwash that was supposed to help with the pain. It didn't. And sent me on my way. I assumed she knew what she was doing, so I went home, curled up in the fetal position for the rest of the day, waiting for this magic butt needle dope to kick in. Upon waking up the next morning, I was unable to breathe properly. I went into the bathroom to look in the mirror and saw that I had something the size of a fucking Brussels sprout behind my left tonsil. The pain at this point was excruciating, but nothing compared to what was to come later. I trusted that the doctor knew what she was doing and that the penicillin was just taking its time. I had what doctors refer to as hot potato voice. Your voice sounds all muffled and fuckered up like you have a mouthful of hot potatoes. I couldn't speak, eat, sleep, drink, or move. Even drinking water was impossible at this point. I had to grab the wall and brace myself every time I swallowed because the pain was enough to almost make me pass out. My new best friend was a big red plastic spitty cup that I was forced to spit in because even swallowing my own saliva was a pain on the same level as gargling with broken glass and thumbtacks. When you can't swallow, you have a tendency to drool everywhere. My lymph nodes in my neck were the size of bull testicles and so fucking painful. It was getting harder and harder to breathe, and the chills were the equivalent to being dressed in a thong at the North Pole. I curled back up in bed and prayed to the God that I don't believe in, that the penicillin would kick in tomorrow and that I would start to feel better. I've never cried from physical pain past my 10th birthday, but at this point, I had no manhood left. As I laid there in a sea of my own drool, babbling incoherent threats to God and clutching my plastic red spitty cup, I was sure that the penicillin would take effect by morning and that I would be on the first plane out of the 7th circle of hell. At this point, the last 2 days were the most pain I've ever experienced in my life. That is, until I woke up. Good morning, room service. Hello, Daniel. My name is Agonizing Fucking Torturous Pain. I've prepared you a marvelous combination of Arctic body chills, a migraine that would make Ron Burgundy whimper like a 4-year-old girl, enough night sweats to almost drown you in your own bed, and, oh, can you please open your mouth so I can cram this concoction of broken glass and acid into your throat? Thanks. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. I'm gonna jam this sharp number 2 pencil into your left ear and leave it there for the remainder of the day. Well, alrighty. You stay here and enjoy, and I'll be back to see you later. Kill me. Please, just fucking kill me. The most frustrating part of all of this was not knowing why the shit this was happening. I've had strep before, and it was absolutely nothing like this. I didn't know why it was happening or if it would even get better. It was a time to pay a visit to that doctor who had called to make doctor who had hurried me out of her office so quickly with mouthwash and butt shots. I called to make an appointment, but they said she would not be in the office until next week, but I could see another doctor? The next available doctor wasn't going to be there until 2 p.m. I pleaded with the appointment lady to squeeze me in, but she said 2 p.m. was all she could do. It was currently 6:45 in the morning. I wasn't going to die at home and stink up my place, so I decided to set up camp in the waiting room at the doctor's office and wait. I walk in smelling like I hadn't showered in 3 days, because I hadn't. Face and neck swollen to mutant status, breath reeking of dread rats, drooling, and still clutching my plastic red spitty cup. I sat there freezing and shaking and stinking and drooling for about 2 hours until one of the nurses saw me and asked, "Are you okay?" I looked up at her and all I could say with my pain and hot potato voice was, "Please, doctor, now. Please, doctor, now." 5 minutes later, they called my name and I went in to see this new doctor. He took one look in my throat and actually said, "Holy shit," under his breath, and he took about 4 steps away from me. I've never had a doctor do that. "Mr. Jones, your strep has rapidly progressed and you need to go right away to the ENT for emergency periotonsillar abscess surgery. If left untreated, this can be fatal. It's actually what killed George Washington." He gets on the phone to schedule an appointment with the ENT across town. I wasn't really paying attention to much of his conversation until he said, "Yes, he's still breathing." This would have pile-drived 4 Mack trucks full of anxiety into normal Daniel's brain, but I was in too much pain to be scared. "Okay, thank you. He will be over soon." With my appointment made and a glimmer of home, I called my dad and asked him to drive me to the ER. 1 hour later, I'm in my dad's car on the way there. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours in the past few days, and the only thing keeping me awake was the constant agonizing pain from the spiked golf ball lodged in my throat. About halfway to the hospital, I started tasting something funny. Well, funny isn't really the word. I started tasting a mixture of poop and battery acid. Dad, something happened and now it tastes bad." The abscess was beginning to rupture in my throat. I would later learn that a periotonsillar abscess can rupture and cause you to aspirate. As horrible as choking on pus sounds, there was also the chance that it could get into my lungs as I was aspirating and cause a fatal infection of the lungs. I didn't know this at the time. I just knew I did not like the taste. So I'm sitting there spitting up tons and tons of awfulness into my plastic red spitty cup, praying we hit every light and get to the hospital as soon as possible. We arrive and they admit me right away. They placed me in a room and told me to relax and that the doctor would be in soon. LaQuisha, the nurse, asked if I wanted her to refill my water cup. "That's not water, ma'am." She looked in my plastic red spitty cup and said, "Ooh, child, oh no, give me that there. Use this here instead, baby." She hands me a bedpan with some paper towels crammed in it to spit in from now on. I said goodbye to my pal, the plastic red spitty cup, who stood by my side through the entire ordeal and was introduced to Red Bedpan Spit Can. At this moment, the pain I felt was more than anything I'd ever experienced. I literally wanted to die. "You lived 34 years and had fun. Don't be a greedy cunt, Jones. Just die. You can't take it anymore." I was still about to learn what real pain was. The doctor walks in. He looked like Jim Varney from the Ernest movies and was wearing one of those huge metal reflective circles on his head that you only see in really old doctor movies. He tells me to get in this weird-looking green chair and to try to relax. Now, this is the second time that they told me to try to relax. I was already almost unconscious, so I didn't know at the time what he was talking about. He pushes a few buttons on the chair, and I start reclining. As he busies himself preparing his torture tools, 3 other nurses and assistants walk in. Really wasn't really sure why it was going to take this many people, but whatever. He starts by squirting some rotten apple liquid numbing gel down my throat for the pain. Then comes the 6-inch anesthetic needle. I am not exaggerating. Eyes squeezed shut, hands gripping the chair like it's about to blast into the orbit. He jams this huge needle into the back of my throat. He then starts working the probe around, and I don't know if he got the needle, I don't know if he got the wrong needle or what, but there was absolutely no numbing going on at all. With his back turned, he says, "Alrighty, are we ready to do this?" At this point, the 3 assistants surround me and begin to hold me in place. As he turns around, I see him clutching a scalpel the size of a samurai sword, and with one quick ninja motion, he slices open the entire abscess. And then I knew real pain. His assistants jammed 2 suction cubes down my throat to catch the pus from going down my throat and choking me to death. He then takes these things that look like wire cutters and forces it into the incision and spreads it open. At this point, I'm just about to pass out, but I'm suddenly brought back to consciousness by the blinding pain of having gallons of pus that look like caramel frappuccino vacuumed out of my open infected wound. The tube happened to be in front of my eyes, so I could see it all going past me to the evil pus holding cell, which I figured was the same contraption they kept the ghosts in when they caught them in Ghostbusters. After that stopped, I figured it was over. Nope. Dr. Death comes back at me with a huge syringe, jams it back into my abscess, and proceeds to drain the remainder of the pus with that. And after a few more pokes and prods, he steps back and says, "Okay, you're all done." I was about to take off my belt and hang him from the door with it, but I was distracted by how much better I automatically felt. The pressure from the ear pain was gone, and I could swallow again, and the throat pain was cut in half instantly. I kept trying to thank him over and over, but my hot potato voice was still in full effect, and all I could say was, "Thank you so much, dear God, thank you so much." He smiled and exited the room. The assistants gave me my prescription for liquid Vicodin and enough antibiotics to bring Biggie and Tupac back to life. As I was ready to leave, I headed for the door when I heard, "Oh, Mr. Jones." I turned around, and there was LaQuisha, holding my freshly washed plastic Red Sippy Cup. "I'm glad you're feeling better. Try to get some rest now, sugar." "Thank you, LaQuisha. Thank you so much." Thank you, guys.